guys. All right, guys. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Gerv and Big Mo. I'm Ricky Hampton, along with former NBA players Paul Mokeski and Derrick Gervin. Guys, it seems like we hadn't been on in this hour in a minute, so it's good to be back on the air. Welcome to all our viewers out there. We definitely want to hear from you guys tonight. Hope everybody's doing just fantastic. Good evening, gentlemen.
It's good to see your Jayhawk colors on there, Ricky.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I'll go with the Jayhawks. Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Blue and red, baby.
Hey, Paul, what is the history behind that cheer, Rock Chalk Jayhawk?
So, they've been doing it for 130 years, I think, and started back, with the old cheerleaders. And I tell you what, sitting in the Allen Fieldhouse in the locker room waiting for your game to start and hearing that coming from that many 16,000 fans, and you can hear it in the locker room, boy, it gives you a chill, I'll tell you that.
Wow. That is definitely one of the more iconic college fight songs, especially for basketball. In fact, that might be the only one I know for basketball.
I mean, and Allen Fieldhouse is one of the last remaining old school field houses. I mean, they're all going by the wayside, and thank goodness that Kansas just keeps, putting some money in and making it upgrade because there's just not enough of those around anymore.
Is it located on campus?
Right on campus. We stayed at a place called Jayhawk Towers. They're like apartments that are right across from the field house and right across from all your classes. You walk up the hill. It was something special. So it's unique.
Oh, that is outstanding. I always wanted to know about, one of your more famous Jayhawks, Wilt Chamberlain, back in the day. The picture I love of Wilt Chamberlain, if you guys ever seen it, he's running, I think he's in a track meet, high jumping. He got on this little beanie at Kansas.
I was fortunate enough, I played against him in a pickup game at Pepperdine when I was a sophomore, I think, in the summer. And then I was at the game when they retired his number at the field house. And he was wearing his leather jacket, and it fit great. How crazy is that?
Back then?
I was back in Kansas visiting friends and Linda's mom, and we had some stuff back there, and I looked through it, and I had a jersey, and I had my leather jacket, and I tried to put it on, and I looked like a big man in a small coat.
And we want to welcome everybody in tonight. I see Nolan, our good friend Nolan's already checked in. Said, keep up the good work, Paul. Good to hear from you, Nolan. Hey, we got a lot of stuff going on, man. Gosh, we got 2 NFL football games on tonight because one of them, the Patriots and the Chiefs had to be moved because of a positive COVID test. The Lions and the Saints were on the borderline of not being able to play yesterday, but they got their game in. Derrick, what's your thought just on this whole pandemic and sports in general, what you're seeing? I'm watching the Astros in athletics playing in LA. They're playing in Dodger Stadium.
For me, it's something that's hard because it's hard to explain because some people feel that they shouldn't be playing, and then of course there's others that feel they should. The players agreed to play, so me being a former pro athlete, I'm gonna support the players. Doesn't mean I think they should be playing, but they do. So I'm gonna just go with it. All I think about is I just hope everyone stays safe. Now, what's amazing to me is, of course, people know Cam Newton had came down with the virus a few days ago. So they've done 2 or 3 days of testing after that, and no other no other Patriots have had COVID. And I find that amazing. And it's kind of weird. He's the only one, but that's what it is. It is what it is. But I'm going to support the players. I just hope they all make it through this safely. All the people that are helping out, that are even the announcers, everyone that's a part of this. I just wish them well, and we make it through this hard time. And it is good to have sports. I will say that. But I don't want to have it at the cost of people's lives or people's health. So, I'm going to just stay positive and hope that this works out.
Yeah, I mean, NBA, what a job they've done in the bubble, and hockey in the bubble, no positive test. And
hockey, Paul, I gotta give them again. I'm sorry, I had to, man.
They did a great job. Adam Silver's a great commissioner and did a great job. And with baseball and football deciding not to be in a bubble, and I think it's probably harder for them to be in a bubble, because hockey and basketball are inside. There's all kinds of different things that can happen. And, with one person runs into somebody else doesn't mean everybody else does. But it spreads, and it's just, there's so many variables when you're not in a bubble. I know the NBA and Adam Silver are watching this very intently to see how the NFL and Major League Baseball do, because coming back around in December or January, they're going to have to start the season again. And they're going to have to decide, do they want to go ahead and open it up, or do they want to play in a bubble again, probably in 4 bubbles, East, West, North, and South. So they're going to have to come up with that decision in January, with hopefully this thing clears up a little bit by then.
Yeah. And we're going to get to the NBA because the championship series certainly got a little interesting last night after Jimmy Butler's remarkable performance. But before we go there,
you're in trouble now. You're in trouble now.
Yeah. Bill O'Brien of the Houston Texans was fired today. A guy off the Bill Belichick coaching tree went 0-4. Made what I thought was just terrible trades, getting rid of some of his better players. The great wide receiver, I can't think of his name right now.
DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins, sent him to, practically gave him to the Arizona Cardinals. Have you guys been on teams when struggling, when the coaches, in fear of his job? How does that affect the workplace as professional athletes? Even though I'm talking about basketball, but it's still the same, I would think, in terms of job status on the pro level.
Well, everybody knows it. I mean, all the players, they know the deal. They know what's going on. The unique situation with him was he was the head coach and the GM. So he made those moves. Most of the time in NBA and NFL, that's 2 different people. So you might have somebody else to blame. Like he didn't give me the right players, or he's not using the right players correctly. But he has no out there. I've always Popovich said it before, how it's a unique situation, but it's like if you're a head coach in a professional team and you don't have a say of what personnel you have on your team, that's like a chef being asked to make a beautiful cake and not being able to put in the ingredients that he wants. So there's good and bad with that. And he was the GM and the head coach. So, but your question, Ricky, I think players know, trainers know, hell, ball boys know that the coach is on tough ground.
Hey, I think Bill O'Brien overall has been a good coach. They've made the playoffs, I believe, last 5 out of 6 years or whatever. They played well last year. They crashed a little bit in the playoffs. That's been their history. But I think the problem with Houston, I could be wrong, but Paul knows this as well. Sometimes coaches have jobs to do, and it's for the betterment of the team. But if you have a player like a favorite in the locker room, that rubs some guys wrong. It has nothing to do with the sport. It might be better for the team, but people have their feelings. They got rid of my friend. They got rid of my boy. And sometimes they hold that against the coach. And guys, they don't forget those kind of things. And then when they get an opportunity to maybe speak to the general manager, well, in that case, not the general manager, the owner or someone might want to talk to you on the side, guys might have voiced some displeasure. I don't know. But I think overall, Bill, we know he'll have another job. I think he deserves another job. It's just that sometimes your voice grows stale in one locker room. Doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It just means it might be a better situation out there for you.
Yeah, look at Doc Rivers. But yeah, I agree. And when you start losing the locker room and people are talking, then it's hard to get them back. And and in today's pro sports is different than when you and I played. Do you know anybody that went to talk to the owner? I mean, now, especially in the NBA, players talk to the owner all the time. Everyone's talking to Mark Cuban. Come on, man. And I got to believe that the NFL is getting more and more like that. So that gives them another avenue to complain or let their concerns be known to the top guy. And that's changing in today's pro sports right now.
Paul, do you remember Harry Weltman?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
He was our vice president with the Nets.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the top of the chain. Willis Reed was the general manager. But if you could get to the president, you're doing well, Harry Weltman. We're not talking about the owner. That's taboo.
Yeah.
So that's just how
he's a great guy, man. Great guy.
Yeah. So today is just a different time. It is what it is, but the ship keeps sailing, so we just have to make the adjustment.
You said something that hit home with me, Derrick, when you talked about players making moves. I remember I had the pleasure of covering Barry Sanders during his career, and his sudden retirement. Some guys, the Lions let go in free agency. Kevin Glover, All-Pro center, and Lomas Brown, All-Pro left tackle, left. And I really believe they were mentors to Barry when he was a youngster, and he really looked up to those guys. And I think that just took a lot of life out of him when they did that. And I believe they went to a rookie quarterback, Charlie Batch. I think Barry's like, nah, we starting all over, so I'm out of here. So that reminded me of that, talking about guys being traded.
Bobby Ross.
Right.
Yeah. Ross might have had something to do with him stepping out of there too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, like, can you imagine back in the day, Larry Bird meeting up with Magic Johnson in the offseason and then giving a call to Isaiah Thomas and saying, hey, let's all go play for Miami. That never happened. That happens all the time now.
and it is what it is for these guys today, but you guys helped pave the way for that, earning free agency and the ability to move and look at these fantastic paychecks they're getting today. How do you like the fact that guys can do that?
I think it's just different, but like you said, it is what it is. And, I wouldn't have felt bad if, a superstar for some team gave me a call in the summertime and we went and played golf and he wanted me on his team. So I think everything has changed. And I think, players are more friendly now. I mean, Dee and I talked about this last week or the week before. Back in the day, you never talked to anybody on the other team before a game. They do it all the time now, and it's just a different way. Whether it's good or bad, it's hard to say.
I'm gonna bring up one guy, Paul, and this guy say they don't need a coach. That that right there, man, rubbed me the wrong way. Kyrie, that's the era we in today. How can you even make a statement like that we don't know? It's basically like Steve Nash is just along for the ride. So it's a KD is a coach, Kyrie is a coach, Jock Vaughn is a coach, and Steve Nash is a coach. That is asinine. These guys, I like them having freedom, but stay in your lane, man. These coaches get paid for a reason. They need coaches, and start respecting these guys a little more. I know some of these players feel like, you know, they've come from poverty and they've made a lot of money, and I can understand that. But always stay grounded, man. Remember where you come from. These coaches deserve to have jobs. The players deserve to have jobs. Let's continue on with this league, this beautiful league that we've supported for all these years. And let's stop making silly comments like that, Kyrie. You give that man the respect. When you see Steve Nash, you walk right up to him and you apologize immediately.
I mean, Kyrie was bored. No one was saying his name for a month, so he had to say something. I mean, that's the way he is. I mean, he always has been. And I mean, to say that in that manner, I mean, you have me. The old saying was, "What's in the locker room stays in the locker room." That's, you know, and you can have beefs and do all that inside, but you don't make it public. And I mean, put yourself in Steve Nash's shoes when that comes out, and he does, and he's treading on tight water anyway because he's never really coached before. Great mind, great guy. He's going to do great, but now you throw that in the mix. It's just not fair to him.
Paul, can I speak, man? This is for you, and I'm saying this, and I mean this sincerely. And you know me, man. You and I have talked a long time. I don't pull any punches. I'm going to be straight. A lot of these players had problems because Steve Nash is white. That bothered me from the beginning. Yeah. Steve Nash is a Hall of Fame basketball player. I'm sure there were some players. We know there were some coaches that were passed up, but they were passed up for many other jobs. And they'll still get opportunities. I really believe that. But to talk about Steve Nash, he has background with KD. I believe he knows Sean Marks and some of those guys. So Ben, when you bring in a coach, there's also a trust factor. And it seems that KD has a lot of belief in him. It seems that Kyrie knows him a little bit. So I just say get a man the benefit of the doubt. And then if it doesn't work, we go from there. But don't be upset because they hired a white Caucasian over black. I'm not going to go with that. Let's see how he does. He might be a perfect fit for that team. And until we see differently, I'm going to support the move.
NBA is relationship.
It's my team, Ricky. Come on. I'm a net for life.
NBA is relations. Coaching and the NBA is relations related. That's what gets you jobs, not sometimes your record, sometimes your reputation, but always your relationships. And Steve Nash was Marks's teammate, and they're friends. And he's the GM, and they made the decision. And it is what it is. I mean, you know, people are qualified and not qualified get hired every day. And, you know, it's going to work itself out. And I just feel, I know Steve, you know, I was there in Dallas with him for 3 years, just a great, classy individual that, like you said, Dee, knows basketball inside and out, has a great mind for it. I just kind of feel bad for him that all this other negative stuff is coming out for no reason, really.
Yeah. Man, they act like the man, Ricky, I'm sorry, right quick. They act like the man was just sitting at home. He's still been around the gym. He worked out KD. So he wasn't just sitting at home on the couch. The guy is very involved in the game. He still bleeds the game.
He's president of Canadian basketball, the whole nation's organization. He's president of that organization. It's the same as being president of USA Basketball. That's what he's been for 2 years.
And he'll get his chance to succeed or fail just like everybody else.
As long as everybody can coach, you know, Jacques can coach and Kyrie can coach. Everyone can coach.
But his resume, I mean, speaks for itself, and he deserves that opportunity if the Nets wanted to give it to him. Hey guys, we got a final series. What looked like a walkover has turned into a series. Miami pounded the Lakers last night. Jimmy Butler was the best player in the gym. I think he had 40 points, 13 assists, something like that. Just crazy.
Zero turnovers.
And 0 turnovers.
Paul and myself met.
40 turnovers.
Ricky, Paul, and myself met last night on the road. He met halfway from Vegas, and I met halfway from San Antonio, and we fought last night over KD and AD and LeBron, and we hugged, and then here we are back today.
I'm really, I'm so happy it's a series. Because I want to see more games. I'm selfish a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so exciting to see what happens next game. So are the Lakers going to wake up like I heard LeBron yell at some players last night? Or is Miami going to say, look around and say, hey, let's follow Jimmy Butler and we can actually win. We just did. We can win. It's not a saying. It's not us saying, hey, we can win. We just won without two of our good guys. And I bet, I predict they get Bam back for next game too.
Now, I'm going to tell you what worries me. I still say Lakers win the series for sure.
Yeah.
But, man, I'll look at I'm just afraid now. One thing I know for sure, Jimmy won't have near the performance that he had. He's going to be fatigued. Question is, who's the next guy going to step up the next game? Because they're going to key on Jimmy just like they did with AD. And I got to give Pat Riley and Spoelstra. I'm going to give Spoelstra credit first since he's the coach. Man, they took AD out of the game mentally in the first 3 minutes. They started double teaming him. They started coming at him from different angles, sending the double team from different areas. He turned the ball over 3 or 4 times, and you could just see his face. I kind of felt sorry for him, and he looked like the guy that played back in New Orleans, Paul, with the facial gestures at the beginning of the game. You could see they had him out of it.
Discombobulated.
And they carried on.
He looks scared.
Huh? Go ahead, Ricky.
He looked discombobulated.
Yeah.
Early. And I got to say this because Paul and I talked about this. AD didn't really show up, but he was in foul trouble. But still, he made some turnovers, uncharacteristic, and he didn't play well. But LeBron, I still say, this is what Paul talked about with me last night. LeBron had his 25, 10, and 8, but he got them early. In the fourth quarter, he made an and one with 11 minutes left. After that, he didn't show up. And the reason I bring that up is because I've heard everybody talk about Westbrook and Harden, Kawhi and Paul George, Jokic and Murray. Now when we get to the Lakers, it's just AD. I'm not going for that. Neither one of those guys showed up in the fourth quarter.
Last night. He turned it over a lot last night too. And he turned the ball over a lot last night.
8 times.
Neither one of them played great. Hey, Ricky, but here go the bad part about that. I know he won't have 8 turnovers tomorrow. And that's the thing that scares me.
Did Tyler Hero be that guy?
Tomorrow he's going to have to be. I wrote yesterday that he'll have to be.
Here's like with LeBron, what really disappointed me in his game was, they went ahead in the fourth quarter. Lakers went ahead. Yeah. And then when Indiana/Butler just attacked them and killed them, and then they were struggling and they would make a run and Butler and Miami never gave up. Instead of going to the basket, LeBron shot 2 30-footers in the last 3 minutes of the game, like the game was over anyway. And, and I could see as a teammate, I'd be going, what the hell are you doing? We're still in this game.
And then he walked off the court with 10 seconds left. What do you guys think about that?
Well, let me make one more point before they do that, and kind of on your point, D, with the second option picking up the slack. So if LeBron's the first option and AD's the second option, I'm good with that. If AD's the first option and LeBron's the second option, I'm good with that. If Butler's the first option and Hero or Olynyk are the second option, Miami's got a problem. Now, Bam's
don't do that to me, but it's
but
it's true.
As far as like walking off the floor, a lot of people have done that. He was frustrated. I don't know who he's frustrated with. He showed it, and he shouldn't have showed his frustration. He should have stayed there with his teammates. And you know what's interesting and you've been in this situation, D. As a backup player, it used to piss me off when the starters are losing by 25, and then I got to be in the freaking game in the last 2 minutes. I mean, you get your butt out here and you play, and you're getting your ass
Hey, Paul, and I'm gonna tell you this, Paul, I'm on your side because I looked at it again last night, and at first I was upset about it, but I looked at it again. Man, that was no big deal. Rondo walked off. It was like 2 or 3 guys. Man, it was no big deal. I can understand him being angry, and I'm sure they expected to win that game. So when I looked at it, I'm not going to turn the series in until Ryan walked off the court. So what? We move forward.
That's not an issue in the locker room. That's not an issue.
The only reason it stood out was because the 24-second clock ran out and the game clock was still there, so they had to finish the game. If that wasn't the case,
and the cameras are on LeBron.
Yeah, and if that wasn't the case, it would have just ran out and all that. And I mean, let's face it, freaking Jimmy Butler walked by him and said, "You in trouble." and LeBron couldn't say anything about it. He should have said, "Yeah, you're right."
I mean, Jimmy Butler he was spectacular.
I mean, I look at those. I don't know the specifics, but I remember back in the day, Akeem Olajuwon playing in the finals and scoring 42 points and getting 25 rebounds and like 10 block shots. That's kind of the game that Jimmy Butler had, that kind of game. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Now, a guy like Jimmy Butler, he was in Philly last year, and Philly decided to sign, what's my guy? He used to be here in Detroit. Tobias. How do you see those? How do you compare those guys? Tobias and Jimmy.
Well,
they're both good, really good players.
Paul, let me take this one quickly because I know Tobias. I know Tobias very well. Been knowing his dad before Tobias was born. Tobias is a nice guy. He's a very nice guy, a humble guy, a guy that you want in the community, a guy that's great in the NBA as far as dealing with children, and he gives back. But when we talking about on the basketball floor, Jimmy Butler should have been born in Detroit. Jimmy Butler is a blue collar. He is everything that a team needs. The guy just brings it every night. The problem, you see who's getting the flack. It's not Jimmy. It goes back to Karl Anthony Towns and those guys. Wiggins. You see Wiggins is gone. So it wasn't Jimmy Butler. It's that Jimmy was tough. Jimmy wanted to win, and he had some guys that didn't want to buy in, that were more about their money than success. So when you have a guy like that, I'm kind of like that when I played, Ricky. My team knew I was a no-nonsense guy, man. We could be friends. We could play cards all week. But when the game come, man, you better have your ass ready.
Only,
and I don't like to use those kind of words, but I did.
Yeah, I guess.
Jimmy's mentality is what I see is along the lines of Kobe and MJ, where he's a killer, he's an assassin, and he's going to do anything to win. And not everybody can play with a player like that. And if you're not thick-skinned and can take the heat, and if you don't work your butt off and practice as hard as you can and play and be mentally in the game, you're going to have problems with them. And that's what happened in Minnesota. And I think that's probably what happened in Philly also, with the process and all that stuff. Those young guys probably, couldn't deal with it. Miami is engulfed in it. I think I saw him dribble the ball out in the last, and every Miami player that was still on the floor went around him and circled him like it was a huddle. That's respect. That's love. And that takes but it's also being able to put up with that toughness too.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, you can't be Iceman playing with Jimmy Butler. You can't have the George persona where you're all cool and stuff. Man, you see how Jimmy sweats, man? The guy's sweating profusely because he's bringing it at all moments of the game. And that's what I love about the guy. I'm not even talking about his scoring and rebound, just his total effort.
He's old school. He's old school.
He's an old school guy. Gwen Clementine, I hope I got your name right, Gwen, checked in. Hey, Coach Mo, love my Lakers, but LeBron is a big baby.
Gwen was one of the people in the office at USC when I was there, and she's just an awesome person. And you're kind of right, Gwen. He was a big baby last night.
Thanks for checking in. You're watching Gerv and Big Mo, starring former NBA players Paul Mokeski and Derrick Gervin. I'm Ricky Hampton, coming to you on a Monday. Hey, before we're going to get back to the finals, but you mentioned Philly, and it made me think about their new coach, Doc Rivers. And gosh, I don't think Doc had been fired the last time we met. Were you surprised by that, Derrick and Paul?
I told you it was going to happen. I told you it was going to happen. I said on our show last week, with that owner guy, you know, Ballmer's kind of crazy and wild, and he thought he could get Kawhi and win the championship, you know, no problem, easy speasy, and it didn't happen. That Doc was probably going to get let go, and you know, quite frankly, Doc had been there for 7 years. I didn't know that, and he's done some great things. But you know, like Dee said, sometimes you lose your voice in the locker room, and it's time to move on. And he had that job within the next. He got a call 5 minutes after he was fired. Believe me that.
Hey, Paul, Ricky, when I went to the draft camp, I came out of college in '85. The draft was in. We went to the first camp was in Chicago. One of the first guys I met that took me under their wing was Doc Rivers, and I feel so bad because during the Clippers series, I stopped calling him Doc. Paul know I just started calling him Glenn Rivers. And I'm gonna apologize, man, for being disrespectful. But I was so hurt, man. And the only reason I was hurt, and I can blame Doc all the way, because Kawhi didn't show up. Boy, playoff P. I don't even want to go there. But as you see now, they had a lot of chemistry issues. Montrez and Paul seem to have problems off the court. So there were a lot of factors. So at the end of the day, Doc is going to be the one to pay for it. But there was some internal friction going on, and that's something that he might not even been aware of. Guys have feelings. We know how we are, and it's just something that maybe it was something that they couldn't fix, and then it just filtered down to the rest of the team, and you see where they are.
Is it his job?
At the end, I know exactly. At the NBA level, it's the coach's job to try and hold players accountable and have a system that they can succeed in. But the bottom line is, as far as chemistry and being able to get together, that's the player's job. Coach can't make you get along with each other. That's the player's job.
So that you're right. You addressed my question there.
Hey Ricky, let me say something on this, because I want people to hear this quickly, because you know I'm a Kawhi guy. Kawhi, man, has been kind of ticking me off lately. I want him to be a vocal leader, but we can't make him be who he's not. But when you start having people out of your camp doing this talking, man, that bothers me, man. We went through that with Uncle Dennis in San Antonio. So Kawhi needs to kind of pull his circle in and tell them that they need to learn to be a little more quiet, just like he keeps his personal life quiet. These guys shouldn't be the ones that's going out talking when it comes to the LA Clippers. If Kawhi has a statement to make, he needs to be the one to make it. Other than that, these other guys need to do like Rich Paul and Maverick Carter, sit back, do what they're supposed to do, and let this man do what he's supposed to do.
That job of the Clippers is very intriguing and very interesting, but it's also very, very difficult, because if they go with someone without experience, you have trouble reeling in Kawhi, who's won 2 championships, and those guys. The reason, like Doc Rivers, when he first got to Boston, he pulled Rondo, Paul Pierce, and KD together and said, listen, I know how to win a championship. I've done it before, and this is how you do it. So we have to do it together, and we have to do it this way. But if you don't have any credibility, you can't do that, and the players are going to do what the players are going to do. So that's going to be an interesting hire. And, you know, Kawhi has to take, if he's going to be there, he's a free agent, right?
Yeah, 1 more year. He'd be a free agent after next year. Him and PG.
Yeah. So he's going to have to decide, I want this to be my team then, and I'm going to have to pull these guys together and say, hey, we got to do this and be accountable. And I think, I'm checking out of left field here. That's been a lot of the problem in Houston with the Rockets. They have never had that guy that's going to do that, and they've always gone their own way, and it's tough to win that way, no matter how good.
What about Tyronn Lue taking that Clippers job? He was already on the staff. Is he tainted because he was already on the staff?
Hey, Ricky, for me, that's not a good move. But I don't want I don't want to cost Ty Lue a job. But for me, they need a new voice. Ty Lue has already been in that locker room with those guys. He's part of the staff. They need a new voice that's going to come in there and command some discipline. Someone that'll be allowed. Lue, we already know, man, the guy almost had a breakdown in Cleveland. It's time to get somebody else. Bring somebody in there new that's going to that the players don't necessarily want, but they will respect. And I believe in Steve Ballmer. It's time for him. He wants to bring in someone. This is his team. He inherited Doc basically, so he wants to start fresh, and I can't be mad about that. And I believe he'll bring in a very good coach.
It better be a winner. That's all I got to say. If it's not a winner, he has no accountability in that locker room, and he won't be able to hold them accountable. So it has to be someone that's a new voice, like you said, D, but that has been there and won. If it's one of these new faces or whatever, he's going to get eaten up and shoot out. That's what's going to happen to him.
Oh, my guy won't come out the booth, man. I know he's old now, but damn, I want to see him holding on somebody's leg one more time, man. While they breaking up ice.
Oh, Van Gundy.
Yeah, man. I love Jeff Van Gundy, man.
I'm telling you, he hasn't won a championship, but Mark Jackson. I mean, Mark Jackson did a great job in Golden State.
They both, Paul. They nominated each other. They nominated each other, Paul.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they are funny in the booth, though, man. They crack me up.
Now, Paul, you just talked about an inexperienced coach in LA would get eaten alive. Kind of explain to our viewers how that can get out of hand with an inexperienced coach.
Well, remember, we talked about this a long time ago, for a long time, about what makes a good NBA coach. You have to have knowledge, right? You have to have knowledge of the game. You have to have respect of the players. You have to be able to be respectful. And then you have to be able to hold them accountable. And you don't get one of those without the other. So if you don't know the game, you can't hold people accountable. And if you're not respected by those players, you can't hold them accountable. I got to tell people, I talked to some of my friends this week in Kansas, and there are all these great ideas, but you could be a coach in that locker room and talking to a $35 million player, and you have your ideas and you hold him accountable, and he just says, "Screw you, coach. I ain't doing that."
Man, get out of here. Yeah.
And that happened, so there's a tough combination. And he better do his diligence, Ballmer, and get the right person in there now, because windows for championships close fast. We all know that. And they do have a window to close fast also. If you spend 2 years treading water with some guy that had a name and you thought, my pet peeve, there's been a couple college coaches that have been successful. Brad Stevens is one, but 90% have not. They have not been. Calipari, Tarkanian, they've never been successful. So it's going to be interesting to see who Ballmer listens to in the basketball world that can make that call. I'm sorry, I'm getting old. Is Jerry West in that front office now?
Yes.
And
did you have to throw Tark the Shark in there, man?
Sorry, man. It's true. He lasted about a month.
Recently, my man from Michigan.
I saw it firsthand here.
And, my man from Michigan, they went to Cleveland. I can't think of his name. I am getting old too.
He got ran out of Cleveland just around with all those other guys.
Beeline, man, John Beeline.
And John, let me tell you guys, John Beeline is a heck of a basketball coach.
Here's the problem. In college basketball, the coach runs the show, the coach is the show, the coach calls all the shots. In the NBA, the coach doesn't run the show, the coach doesn't call the shots, the players do. And that's the difference. And most college coaches, I've talked to a lot of them that have asked me about that. And I really, for the most part, tell them you should stay where you are, man. You could run a program and win, 60% and get another 4-year contract. You do that in the NBA, you're fired.
Paul, if you call your coach, if you call your players a thug, your window is not going to be.
Then
you
you got to
call
get
thug, and then you don't remember it. So yeah, your days are numbered.
Then you got to get on the plane the next day.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, it was Joe Biden, man, John Beeline, Obama, all of that. He called them thugs, didn't remember. His assistant coaches had to remind him. So yeah, he had to be headed out the door shortly after that.
Yeah, that was an utter disaster. But I'm telling you, man, that guy is a good coach.
Oh yeah, no question. There's great coaches, Ricky. There's great coaches that don't get jobs, or that gets jobs, and then because of, especially in the NBA, because of wrong personnel, wrong salary cap. People talk about making these moves and doing this. It has to fit in salary cap wise, or you can't even make that trade. You can't even think about it. And unless all the stars are aligned and you have a great GM that you trust and an owner that trusts you, man, it could be a headache, as we know.
I'll tell you, a great coach, Eric Spoelstra. The job he's done with this team, the determination he had on his face, the determination he had after they lost game 2, it's just no excuses. He wasn't, he said, hey, we got guys out, so what? We just got to find a way. If you want to win, you'll find a way. And this team came out there and found a way.
He broke the mold. When I was involved in NBA coaching and the D-League coaching, the video room was the kiss of death for you as a coach. When you went to the video room, we never saw you again. You could maybe go into the scouting end. Spoelstra was the first guy that grew up in a video room with Pat Riley, and then became a coach, and then a very good head coach. And he also has somebody to lean on that's pretty good. I think that Riley guy is pretty good.
Ricky, they interviewed me here on the news last year in San Antonio on the top station here, KSAT 12, and I talked about this basketball, man. It's just different when they all these kids. I think about these kids out here, man, and then they watch what's going on with the NBA today. It's so confusing, man. It's like leave the kids. Their head is turning one way, you turn this way. I'm looking at today. Paul, you tell me with the NBA. I know these guys make a lot of money, but with these coaches and all these other people that are working in the NBA, aren't they just as important as the players? It's a fraternity. And sometimes people get caught up in so much in the players and they forget about these guys. My point was, I talked on the television and I had one of the young men talk. And what I told him was about having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. And then I reminded him and a few other kids that Eric Spoelstra started out as a video coordinator. This guy with the Spurs, last name Prunty, I think Will Prunty, has moved up. Started off as a video coordinator. So all of these jobs, even if you don't end up playing in the NBA, you can still have a job. You can still be around the game. And that's what I think we need to start harping more on. The percentages are very low of making the NBA, but the percentages of working in the NBA are not as low. So let's set our goals, not just to maybe play, but also just to be a part of the game. It's the best game in the world. And just for me to be around it was it's just special. You can't even describe.
There's a lot of jobs, video, all that, but the number is very hard to get into. Let me tell you, it took me 10 years to get in the NBA, actually 15, I think. But there are, and all those jobs are so important. And some owners don't understand, that the video guy, the assistant coach, hell, the trainer for sure, the strength and conditioning coach, the equipment guy, they all affect how your team plays. Because if you're in the locker room and Dirk Nowitzki doesn't get the right combination of Gatorade and water at halftime, he's not a happy camper. and then he might not perform well. If the trainer, none of the players don't trust nor like the trainer, it's not going to work either. So all those parts, those moving parts, have effect on the game. One of the things is, though, owners, and for the most part GMs, don't realize nor care about that. They make their own decisions on what they want to do, and it's a tough business, man. I'm telling you.
Hey, Paul, this is how important all the other people are that work in the organization. Rick, our conditioning coach, Rich Delatry, I love you, man. Is out doing some things at Rutgers now. Rich Delatry, Teddy Arsenault, one trainer we deal with every day in the locker room, and the late great, the oldest gentleman, Fritz Master. Those guys become a part of your family, man. We're around them more than we're around our wives during the season. And you get feelings for these guys. I didn't look at what their so-called title was. I looked at how they treated us as people and as players. And that's what I looked at the most. And it's about developing relationships. And those guys, if I'm remembering their name 30 years later, know how important they were to me.
I mean, you see them at practice. You see them in strength and conditioning. You see them in the weight room. You see them on the airplane. You see them in team meetings. You see them in the video room. Yeah, you see them, like you said, every day. They're always there, and they're part of your family. And I think one of the sad things is players are not as conscientious as we used to be, and
that's true.
They take a lot of. They have their right guy that they pick, right, that takes care of them. But then the other ones are kind of, side whatever, and they forget about them. And it's sad because I remember, what everybody was doing for me. I mean, how important it is for the equipment guy to get your right shoes or, get you new socks when you need them. Stuff like that is, it means something. But I think players are they don't feel that way. And it starts from AAU. You've seen it now, how kids in AAU react and their parents. I mean, then that only multiplies in high school and college and now the NBA. It only multiplies.
Were you guys in the era where the shoes had become readily available for NBA players? Could you plan a different pair of shoes every night if you wanted? You guys were in
shoes?
The 80s and 90s, yeah.
We got shoes as much. Hey, Rick, let me tell you this, man. Paul played longer than me in his 12 years, but George has been with Nike since 1976. So I haven't bought a pair of shoes in 44 years, just so everybody knows. But when I got to New Jersey, and Paul's been there longer than me, man, it was like, Paul, I couldn't believe it. They had a guy from Nike comes in the locker room. They had a book. They give you a book. You look through the book, man. You go in there and you pick out any shoes or sweats that you want. And you order as many as you want. I ordered 20 pair of Nikes just to see if I was awake, man. I'm serious. And the next week, guess what came? 20 boxes of Nikes, man. I couldn't believe it.
You're younger than me because that wasn't the case for me. I mean, I think when I first came in, there were more players. Almost every player had a tennis shoe deal. Nowadays, only the top players have the deals, but they get free stuff, as much as they want. But when I played, it depended on what company you signed with. Was it with Converse? Holy cow, they were around. Reebok, Nike was just coming in. You would get that rep and then ask for stuff. And then I remember when I was with Nike, we got our Nike stuff when we went to Portland. And, we'd get a bag of stuff and take back with us on the plane in Portland. But nowadays, I was there. I know. I mean, with the Dallas Mavericks for 5 years, I mean, you get whatever you want, whenever you want, how many ever times you want. I mean, when I played, you broke in your pair of shoes at practice, then you switch them from practice shoe to a game shoe, and then you had another practice shoe, and when the game shoe wore out, you got rid of it and you moved your practice shoe to your game shoe, and you brought in another practice shoe.
Oh my goodness!
Now I will tell you guys. Talking to my friend Ray Scott, the former Pistons coach, when they were playing in the 60s, they had a pair of shoes, and you could only get more when the sole got down. And he said the Pistons had a guy with a ruler that would measure, you still got 2 inches left on the show.
It's just
Were
like
they Converse?
it's just like you're measuring your tire for your car, right? When the penny covers the head.
Hey, Paul, Ricky, Dominique Wilkins wore a different pair of shoes every game.
Yeah.
Every game.
Yeah.
Seems like you have to break them bad boys in, though.
Yeah, nice.
Huh?
Seems like you would have to break those bad boys in for a game or two.
Well, he probably okay the day before, whatever. Yeah, but every game he would wear a different pair. Man, it was unbelievable, man. And I won't start talking without shoes on, because then people start talking about Shaq. So I'm gonna move on that. But yeah, he wore a new pair every day.
But you know what, guys, I want to get back before we get out of here, and I want you guys to tell me how Miami can win this series. But before we do that, Dominique Wilkins, the explosion he had, what was it like competing against that guy?
Well, I mean,
well, go ahead, Paul. You want to go first? Go ahead.
Well, back when I played, it was Philadelphia, Boston, us in Milwaukee, and Atlanta. Those were the powerhouses in the East. And Atlanta had Dominique, and I saw dunks that I've never seen before, and some talent that I've never seen before. And believe me, I've taken charges from Charles Barkley, Dr. J, Michael Jordan, and I usually get them before they get up, so I don't get dunked on. But with Dominique, you couldn't do it because he was so agile and he could get up so quick.
Oh man, Ricky, you already know that's my best game of my career before I got hurt. I became a starter with the Nets. Started playing 35 minutes a game. Who was the first team we went against? Atlanta Hawks. So who am I going against? Dominique Wilkins. And what for me it was personal because I when I was a little younger, George used to play with Dominique and Isaiah and Barkley and those guys during the summer and Magic. So I had been around them a few times. And I knew Gerald Wilkins. So it was kind of personal for me. Playing against Dominique, I always thought I could play against him. George Noah always felt that I could deal with him. So I came out that night, had a good game. I had 35 points. Dominique had about 18. But I'm going to tell you one thing, and Paul, don't you laugh. He took a dribble or two on me, and he pulled up and shot a jumper. And I've told you this story over, and I'm not trying to be funny, and I'm not exaggerating. He shot a jumper. And I'm 6'8". Paul, his private part was almost in my face, man. And I'm serious. That's how high this guy jumped. The human highlight film. It's sad today that people don't the young people don't go back and look at the history of the Dominiques and the Sean Kemps.
Exactly.
There were people before Vince Carter. Go back and look at these guys, the Dr. J's and the Dominique Wilkins, and see some of the things that people were doing back then. We had athletes back then. We have them now, but we also had them back then. And young people, start being more aware of your history. Check out your history.
I'll tell you, I'll throw a name out there. One of the best athletes I've ever seen, Larry Nance. Larry Nance.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Phoenix, I played with him in Cleveland. Larry Nance was the first guy that did the 2 basketball dunk in the dunk contest. That guy was 6'9" and was crazy, also athletic.
Yeah.
One of my favorite players, Paul, and he smacked one of my shots, I believe, to like the 2nd or 3rd row. Why you laughing, Ricky? Patrick Ewing smacked it to about the 5th row.
I'll tell you a quick story about Larry. I played with him in Cleveland. So one night we're playing, and he jumped really high and got low bridge, and then he flipped over, and somehow everyone was holding their breath, but somehow he landed okay, and he was okay. The next day in the paper, when we looked in the paper, there's a picture of him with his head where his feet are and his feet where his head was, just about 4 feet off the ground, and he somehow, like a cat, ended up on his feet. That's how good an athlete he was.
Can you see my toes, my fingers, Paul?
Yeah.
My crew, how they bent? Yeah. That's Dominique's foot, Ricky. I don't know how, it's unbelievable how he could jump like that, man. His toes, it kind of reminds you of Shaq. Seriously.
Wow.
And unbelievable. Hey, Ricky, but I want to switch this just for a second before we get off. I have just for 1 second. We've been talking about sports today, right? We lost an icon this week, a few days ago, actually. And I couldn't get off here tonight without mentioning this guy, man. The gentleman pitched 28 complete games in the season. We lost a legend, a baseball legend, Mr. Bob Gibson.
Yeah.
And I had to send a shout out to him and send condolences to his family. We lost another great one. And what made me think about that, because I'm talking about young people studying their history, I send my condolences to the family of the great Mr. Bob Gibson.
And did you guys know that Bob was a heck of a basketball player at Creighton? I think he averaged like 22 points a game.
Yeah, I heard
Creighton
that.
Blue Jays. Wow.
And when I played Little League in high school a little bit, and watching him pitch, he used his whole body. His whole body was flying off the mound when he was pitching.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And back then, guys, everybody went 9 innings. I mean, he'd have 25 complete games. I mean, you go out there and try to
Hey,
take
Paul, Ricky, there's 3 pitchers. Well, 4 pitchers. Let me see. There's Nolan Ryan, Louis Tion, Bob Gibson. There's 3 or 4 pitchers I wouldn't even run out to the mound against. And I was told Bob Gibson was one of those.
Tom Seaver was one of those guys. Can you imagine a manager going out there, give me the ball? Look at him, man, go sit down somewhere. Hey, but before we get out of here, 2-1, we got game 4 tomorrow. Paul, how does Miami win? And Derrick?
Miami wins by playing the same way. I don't think Miami wins, by the way. But Miami wins by getting Bam back. I'll tell you how Miami wins. Even if he's not 100%, he can give them something. But with Miami wins if Hero and Robinson can start shooting better. They're both shooting 27 and 25% from the 3 now. So in the finals, and they have to shoot better for Miami to win. I don't think Butler can play that type of game again. He'll play similar game, but okay, I'll leave it. Robinson, Bam back, and Hero and Robinson shooting better.
Wow, it's going to be tough. And the reason I don't think Miami wins tomorrow is because, Paul, you watched it, all these games. They drive in, like Jimmy Butler did it 3 or 4 times yesterday, has a wide open layup, and then they drive too deep, and they try to kick it out to the 3. The Lakers have been living off of that, and that's getting LeBron going. They get out on the break. If they can stop making those silly turnovers and Duncan Robinson can relax. Duncan, you don't have to shoot 3s all the time. If there's no one at 10 or 15 feet of you, you don't have to shoot a 3. You can drive in and dunk the ball. That is legal.
Yeah,
so if they play with range tomorrow, they have a chance. I can't see them winning tomorrow, though. I think LeBron's going to be on another level. I think AD's going to be on another level, and I just think tomorrow will be 3-1.
It seemed like Butler saw AD out of the corner of his eye all the time when he drove it. You know, AD was in the area, but wasn't really going to block the shot. But then that's when he was kicking him out, when he could have just laid him in.
Right, because AD was in foul trouble. Would they?
Right, Paul. That's my point. He wasn't even trying to contest his shot. He could have dunked the ball once or twice, and he threw it. I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Would you double Jimmy Butler?
No.
Maybe some, but not a lot. I mean,
not like you did James Harden.
No. He's not. And
Ricky.
The problem with the problem with
anybody that can guard him. LeBron can't guard him.
Yeah, but a lot of the trouble with
Ricky, but wait, Paul, let me say this. I disagree, Ricky. This is what you got to understand yesterday. Jimmy usually distributes the ball a lot. A lot of those plays, he usually passes the ball. So they kind of gave up on the defensive end and started. If you watch a couple times, he shot on LeBron. He caught LeBron off guard. They won't be catching him off guard tomorrow. Everybody will be zoomed in on Jimmy Butler tomorrow. I see Jimmy tomorrow getting another. He get his 20. He get a hard 20 tomorrow and 5 or 6 assists and 6, 7 rebounds. That's Jimmy Butler, and that's what you'll see tomorrow. The other guys are going to have to step up, and they must get Bam back to even have a chance.
Yeah, the problem with the other guys is it's Hero, Olynyk, Crowder, and Nunn and Robinson. That's the problem. And the thing about
Oh,
doubling
Crowder.
players
Oh,
and Butler's a really good passer and he makes passes. If you double him and he kicks it out to Hero and Robinson and they start lighting it up like they can, then you give them confidence that they can start. Then they
right.
might have 25. So that doubling players adds different scenarios coming in the game. And, you know, the Lakers were right in the game. They had the lead in the fourth quarter as good as Butler was playing. So, you know, I would just don't turn the – here's another thing, Lakers. Don't turn the ball over 20 times, 10 times in the first quarter. You can win the game then.
Well, that's
Hey, Paul,
Paul,
don't you think they have to have 4 scores like Austin tomorrow? They have to have 4 guys, 3 or 4 guys in their 20s, Miami, to win, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to come from Hero or Robinson getting hot, you know, and I don't.
Or none, Kendrick, none. I don't see it happen. Or Crowd, I don't see it happen.
And we talked about this way before when the playoffs started, how long and athletic and tall the Lakers are. And that they can close out better and bother people with. I mean, look at their small lineup is 6'11", 6'9", and 6'8". That's their small lineup, you know, with AD at the 5. You know?
Hey, our buddy Kayvon just showed up. Let me just get this in, Derrick. Kayvon showed up, said, I predict the Los Angeles Lakers will lose to Miami in the finals. So I disagree with you, Big Mo, about the Lakers winning their next game in the ball against the mighty Heat. Okay, Kayvon, we hear you. We got you on record, buddy. Go ahead, Derrick.
Tell him to give his buddy Nick Nurse a call. See how he's doing.
Hey, I like the Heat. So, Kayvon, you hear that? I like Miami Heat. They are the first team other than Philadelphia to invite me in camp. So I love the Heat, but I can't close my eyes. I just don't think they have enough, especially tomorrow. The Lakers are going to be focused tomorrow. Everybody, some of the guys didn't have a good game. Now, I got to say this quickly. There's one guy on the Lakers that has made his mark, and I'm hoping his brother gets in line and understand. Marcus Morris, I'm sorry. You know, the word in the family, Markeith is the man. And then we look and see how different if you go in the wrong team. So I'm going to give LeBron and AD some credit. Marcus Morris has come to that team, and he has been huge. He was huge yesterday. I think he had about 16 points. He hit a lot of pivotal shots. He's played tough defense, and I'm going to give him a lot of credit because from what I've seen in these playoffs, Marcus needs to start getting a little more respect. You hear that, Marquise? So you start giving your brother a little more respect, man. He's been balling, and he's going to have a ring to prove it.
And he's shooting 47% from the 3. He's knocking down some big threes here. The people that need to step up for Lakers too a little bit are Caruso and Green. They've been playing well in the bubble in the playoffs, but in the finals they're not as effective and playing as well. I mean, Green is shooting 20% from the 3. I mean, they have to step it up too.
Paul, you see what they're doing to him, Rondo and Caruso? They closing out on the 3-point line, making them put it on the floor.
Yeah.
So then they give it the handoff. Green tried to hand off to this guy. They try to hand off to this guy. Then they end up taking a bad shot. But they've been making Danny put it on the floor a lot. They've been making Caruso put it on the floor. And even the last game, Rondo, and it's paid dividends for him. Well, last night it did.
And Rondo's been shooting light outs from the 3 so far. He came back down to earth last game. He was struggling from the 3, so that's a factor too. That, you know, he's not a 3-point shooter. He's just been shooting great from it, and I think that's
he's been shooting like Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Hey man, this has been a great hour. It's good to be back on a Monday. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope everybody stays safe. Hope all your baseball teams, football teams, and basketball teams win this week.
The Chiefs won, baby. Go Chiefs, go Packers. Chiefs and Packers in the Super Bowl.
All right. Well,
Chiefs.
For Paul Mokeski, this is Ricky Hampton. Peace, everybody. Good night, and God bless. See you next week.
Everybody, good night.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Care, Rick. Have a great
other.
night. I love you guys. Good night.